Need a release for that combo?
Okay, let's talk about releases.
Because I had no idea you were going to talk about mold making, and I'm a mold making geek too, but I've never used any of the equipment.
Alright, well fuck it, let's make a dice then. Let's, because everyone's probably running behind by the time the actual other part comes out, so let's do that and we'll talk a little bit about releases and whatnot. Alright, so now we're going to make a 20-sided dice. And we're going to make it in this mold. So this started out looking sort of like that box. Where's that? Okay. Except that it had to get made in several stages such that you got this thing which registers into itself. Silicon, when it's curing, silicon meaning this rubber, will totally stick to silicon. Anything that's curing will stick to anything else that's curing, typically. Most of these plastics don't stick to silicon at all, which is why I use silicon to make molds out of it. Some things do stick to other things.
Can I ask how you make such a mold with the dice not flat on the bottom of them?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So, you want to hand me that? Carefully, slowly. Okay. You make them like this. So you see how that is standoffs?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see when this mold got made, anyone can take a look at this if you guys want. You want to pass around these? So when this got made, the first part that got made was this.
That would have been the finger side.
No, this. This is the first part that got made. No, this is the first part.
I'm 0 for 2.
Yes, this is the first part. So you start like you normally would with for a lot of the stuff like that white plastic that box is in. It's called styrene. It's a really cheap plastic and it's not very reactive, so it's great for making molds. You can cut it with an X-Acto knife. It's totally forgiving stuff, and if you screw it up, you can throw it away because the wonder of styrene is in its disposability, sort of. Sorry to be anti-recycling or anything like that, but it's really great because it's you don't have to feel bad about messing it up. So you make a flat piece of styrene, and you build a box, like a shallow box. Try and envision it. I wish I brought it, but it's basically a flat piece that would be down here. And then you make walls to the side of it, and you can totally make it all hood rat style like that. It's all hot glued and nasty and not particularly square, and that part's not that important. So you make a box like that, and then you sink. You make in this you would have made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes in that. You would have stuck the dice in an orientation such that so that they look like this in your box that went under here. And so you have them all, each sitting in a recess. Now you fill it, now they'd be wobbling around in this hole that they're in, and you fill that recess with clay and smooth it flat so that these dice are clayed up in this styrene piece. Okay, so now you have this basically this flat thing. It just looks like a 2x4 if half of this dice were sticking out of it. And then you pour your mold over that. And then along the side of that, like if your dice are stuck in here, you put a bunch of half-round balls, which is what you see here, along the sides, like this. So then you pour your rubber in, and what you get is the negative of that. So you get this with these recesses where the balls were, and where these little guides were, and where most of your dice was. So now you have this part. And you very carefully pull your plastic so that this dice is still stuck in here. So now you have this with 6 dice in it. Mm-hmm. Now you build your walls to this around the outside, and this part's way easier. You build your walls to this, and that is when you use release agent. And you use release agent so that when you're pouring your silicone rubber on top of this, it doesn't stick to the other silicone rubber. And there's a bunch of different release agents you can use. There are 4 different kinds of plastics. You can also use Vaseline, which is great for most things in mold making. And you can see, if you guys look really carefully on this mold, you can see like gnarly, like Todd Bailey bad like brush wipes all over this, where I applied Vaseline so that these 2 pieces of the mold wouldn't stick together. Then you just pour the rest of your box full of silicone rubber, and voila, you have the other half, which is this part. Oh yeah, and you also, because you need a place to get the plastic in and out when you're casting it, you have this in there, and then you stick on, essentially, if you've got them oriented like that, with that point up, in fact, it was that point that was up in there, you put on a piece of plastic such that the air can escape, and you stick another piece of plastic on this that you're going to use to fill this this void with plastic when you're actually making your part. And it looks a lot like the thing that I've been handing around. Anyway, that's how you make a 2-part mold. So now we're going to actually cast something in this 2-part mold, and we're going to use some Vaseline, not so that anything sticks to anything else, because nothing in what we're about to do would stick to anything else in what we're about to do. But it doesn't. This stuff doesn't fit together very well unless you grease it up, because it's really tight.
Just a rhetorical question.
Does anybody else want to do this?
If you need dice to make dice, who made the first dice?
Well,
a really good
whittled it out of wood.
but after they whittled it out of wood, they had to treat it with a bunch of weird plastic compounds so that you could use it in silicone rubber mold and not inhibit the reaction.
Because when you heat up wood, it's going to outgas.
Yeah, that was a real pain in the ass. That particular mold right there, which is a box mold, and it's got those weird bolts to register everything. You guys can take that apart as much as you want. I've used that to make some table legs for a garment in this runway show. And this model had to wear this table. And I don't know how many of you guys have hung out with models, but in addition to not being the halest, hardiest people in the world, they're huge whiners. So you can't really make a very heavy table and expect them to carry it more than one time.
It wasn't the Hussein Shaleon thing, was it?
What's that?
Was this one of your projects? Or
It was with somebody else.
Okay.
But anyway, so the solution that we came up with for this project was to make the table legs out of foam so that they would be very light, so that the model would not bitch about carrying them. So that task fell on me. And that's what I used to make the table legs. That mold also incidentally wasn't done under pressure because it didn't matter.
What does pressurization do?
Pressurization, as soon as we're recording this, I'll deal with that. All right, so this is all greased up. This should fit together. Now, of course, there's only one way that this goes together. That's not it. If you're a good mold maker, you label this kind of thing.
Or you only put one little ball on one side, 2 on the other.
That's, I guess, what I meant by label. All right, so it should be like